It's a freaking miracle. I'm able to make a third video this week. And guys, I'm really making this video because I saw something that's really standing out to me. And I'm just honestly kind of surprised it's not moving. And then nobody else is talking about this. At least I haven't heard it in any other podcasts or YouTube videos or anything. So I wanted to just kind of bring it to your attention. Maybe you'll agree with me. Maybe you won't. I think that you will. Just with the data I'm going to show you. But even if you don't, I'm actually kind of happy about that because I want to know what you're thinking. Why do you not agree with this? Anyways, the games I'm going to be talking about here is the Rams at the Ravens. It's at Rams minus 3.5 right now. I did a lot of research on this one as far as what book is giving the best lines right now. So my bookie and I think DraftKings and a couple others have it at minus 110. Pretty much everybody has it at Rams minus 3.5. But those places have it at minus 110. Bovada and a few other I think Bet Online have it at minus 115 and minus 120. Bookmaker is the best place to get this number at right now. It's at minus 108. The reason I bring that up is that a lot of times Bookmaker is the earliest place to put up the lines, and a lot of times they're also the cheapest place to get your line. They have this discounted line at the minus 108 instead of the minus 110, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but those 2 cents add up a lot throughout the year, especially on pushes and things like that. You'd much rather get that minus 108 number than having to tie up minus 110 or minus 120. But anyways, just a plug for Bookmaker. I'm not selling it. They don't give me commission for it. I just want to let you guys know as just kind of hey, maybe you're just gambling with side money or this is not your full-time occupation. Look into getting an account at Bookmaker. I'll try and put a link below. But really, like I said, even if you're not going to use it right this second, open an account with them just to be able to see their lines, because a lot of times you will get a better line at a better price through Bookmaker. But anyways, minus 3.5, I will probably myself buy it down to the minus 3, but I really don't even think that's necessary. I like it because you're going to get that key number, and 3 is the biggest key number this year by a long shot. On Twitter, I did post the key numbers for totals as well as for spreads, and 3 is, I want to say 15%. It's just meaning that it shows up 15% of the time, doubles any other number as far as spreads are concerned. So that's why I myself would probably be buying down to the 3. But let's get into some of the numbers here. I want to go over my numbers first, and then we'll go over kind of some actual player stuff. So as far as just the regular breakdown, the Madden ratings and DVOA and field position, all that kind of stuff. One thing to point out is that we have Lamar Jackson rated as a 91. So 2 things about that. 1, we're not really sure if Lamar Jackson is going to play this week or not. I think he will, and I think he's going to at least try it. He's going to give it a shot. He's going to have some sort of limited participation in this game at least. Secondly, though, is he going to be 100%? Is he going to really truly be this 91 ranking that Madden has him at? My answer is no. I think if he goes, I really think he's going to be limited. Whether that means the number of plays that he has, or the number of running plays that they run for him, or just kind of their play calling style, I think that's all going to change dependent on how healthy he is. And I'll get into some stuff here in a second, just showing you some clips of his practice and things. But it's very hard for me to believe that he's going to enter this game at 100%. Even if they shoot him up with something, this guy's still going to be feeling and worried about that ankle. But with him at 100%, ready to go, and being the Lamar Jackson that we know and love, we would still have the Rams favored by 5.5 points. And right now it's only 3.5, which means that that's given us 2 points of favor, 2 points of line value in our favor right off the bat. Everything else has been updated. The DVOAs are updated. The field positions are updated. Home field advantage has been moved down to 1 from the 2, but again, not a huge deal there. Either way, we have them by 5.5, so we're having those 2 points of advantage. Now, to get away from DVOA, as far as, somewhat get away from it, my personal grades have the Rams really at about 32 points and the Ravens at 18. Keep in mind, that's within 1 standard deviation, and the standard deviation is 7 points. About 60% of games right now, or 60% of teams are scoring within that 1 standard deviation of where I'm at. The 40% that aren't are typically about 2 standard deviations away. Now, that means that roughly like 18 out of 32 games, or out of the 32 teams, are scoring within standard deviation of where I'm predicting them at. It's not perfect, obviously, but it does come into play because odds are at least one of these teams is going to get within that standard deviation that I'm putting them at. My prediction is probably both of these teams are going to be at where we're placing them at right now, or within the standard deviation of where we have them at. As far as EDSR is concerned, the EDSR, I'm just using the last 6 weeks, so weeks 10 through 16, where are these teams at? And I don't use the full season for this at this time of year because the beginning of the season really does not have a whole lot to do with what's going on recently, whether it's injuries, COVID, play calling, coaches, whatever. Stuff has changed over the course of the season, so I'm only taking those last 6 weeks into account when we're looking at the EDSR. It's sort of closer than I expected it to be, but the Rams do win that particular stat. The Ravens are rushing the ball 43% of the time, while the Rams are only rushing about 39% of the time. Offensively, the Rams rank 9th in both rushing and passing DVOA offensively again. Pretty good. Just really means they can beat you either way. Offense is pretty mobile. Again, they're going to take what you give them. As far as the Ravens are concerned, again, they have a high rushing attack, right? They have the 8th best rushing game in the NFL per DVOA, so that makes sense. Passing-wise, as we all kind of know, that's not really their strong suit, right? So they're ranked 15th per DVOA, so they're just kind of like an average passing attack at best. But one thing we have to take into account when we're looking at this, and really just all these numbers, you have to look at them through the lens of strength of schedule. These numbers that you're putting up, are you doing it against good opponents, bad opponents? Who are you playing exactly? The Rams have the 17th hardest strength of schedule, so these numbers that they're putting up is coming up against, about an average strength of schedule. Meanwhile, the Ravens have the 7th easiest strength of schedule. So even though they're putting up similar numbers, and in some cases, actually in most cases, worse numbers, the Ravens have had a much easier schedule to work against than the Rams had. So that's red flag number one as far as just strength of schedule, DVOA kind of stuff. Secondly, though, if we look at the offensive output of these teams, or the opponents of these teams, I wanted to check, where are they good at as far as their schedule is concerned. The Rams have had the 24th easiest or the 9th toughest schedule, if you want to look at it that way, when it comes to playing opponents who are good at rushing the ball. It's the rushing efficiency of their opponents, meaning they've had a very tough schedule and they played a lot of teams who know how to run the ball. The Ravens have played the 15th easiest schedule as far as rush efficiency of their opponents. So again, pretty average schedule as far as the Ravens are concerned. When it comes to passing, not a big deal as far as the Rams are concerned because we're not expecting the Ravens to rely on their passing attack, but we realize that the Ravens will be passing at least somewhat in this game. The Rams have had the 20th toughest or easiest, which is the 13th toughest strength of schedule against opponents who know how to pass the ball. So they've also had a relatively tough schedule against opponents who can just move the ball either way. The Ravens have had the 2nd easiest schedule of pass efficiency of opponents. Most of their opponents have not been great at passing the ball. The Rams, again, ranked 9th at rushing or passing DVOA offensively. So this is going to be an issue for the Ravens defense. The other issue is the same issue that I harped on last week, and the same issue that kind of presented us with the Bengals play from last week, which was the Bengals and Ravens over, which again easily cashed. I want to say cashed in the first half. Was that the Ravens secondary is still beat up. They are getting some guys back, but the guys they're getting back are not it's not their top tier players. They are still missing 2 or 3 of the really high end secondary pieces, and just the positions that these guys are still missing at is presenting some issues, and it's going to continue to present issues, especially against a Rams team who wants to pass the ball and they want to pass deep. Lastly, the defensive efficiencies. So The rushing defensive DVOA for the Rams is -21, which is good. When it comes to defense, you want to have a negative number. The bigger the negative, the better your defense. Passing defense are -1.5. So the Rams can stop the run, kind of, sort of struggle to stop the pass. Not too bad, though. -1 is still actually pretty decent in the NFL. The Ravens have a -17 for their rush defensive DVOA, so it's pretty good. It's definitely above average. It kind of rivals what the Rams can do, but passing wise, they give up +28 DVOA, which is terrible. I want to say that ranks like number 30 or 31 in the NFL. They're almost the absolute worst secondary in the NFL right now, and they're about to take on a Rams team who not only likes to pass the ball and actually passes the ball 61% of the time per this rushing percentage, but secondly, they have really damaged running backs right now. Cam Akers may be back. I'm not really expecting much out of somebody who just tore his Achilles not that long ago. Darrell Henderson's going to be out. And with the running backs coming off of injury or suffering injuries, a lot of time that leads to the team passing the ball more. So again, just all sorts of issues and red flags for the Ravens against the Rams in this particular matchup and at this particular time because of all the injuries and things. So again, I'm really, really liking the Rams so far, right? Well, let's take a look and see what happens if we end up getting Tyler Huntley instead of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's rate's a 91. Huntley's rate a 63. So if we come in here and we change this down to a 63, looks like the Rams should actually be about 9.5, and I would even just off of my personal preference and the numbers we've looked at, I even jacked it up a little bit to 10 and said the Rams should be 10-point favorites if we get the word that Jackson is not going to play. Again, they don't expect that to happen because this is essentially a must-win game for the Ravens. So I think that they're going to do everything they can to get Lamar Jackson out there. But if he just can't go, or if he's just that ineffective, if Huntley's in that game, the Rams should be a much bigger favorite than they are using the Lamar Jackson numbers. Now, aside from the numbers, let's kind of look into what I was talking about earlier with the injuries and things like that. So this is actually the Ravens depth chart. They are still showing Huntley's out because of illness, not COVID, just other illnesses. Offense is actually pretty much intact, except for this Ronnie Stanley, who was a big loss. Villanueva did move over, but it's going to cause some issues as far as just the rest of their line. And I think they're okay still as far as our line is concerned, but obviously they would have loved to have Stanley back. As far as their defense goes, and again, this is really where the problem area is. When we look at the secondary, we are missing Deshaun Elliott, Washington, Marshall, and Marlon Humphrey. And when we go back to look at the rankings, the Ravens started off with a lot of corners to start this year, which is smart. Most teams should do this, and a lot of them actually don't. But the Ravens were smart. They had a pretty deep corner room. And if we look down the line a bit here, Marcus Peters no longer with the team. He was one of the highest rated corners in here. Marlon Humphrey, the highest rated corner, he's still out. He's on IR. Let's take a look and see who else was higher. Marshall, I believe he is still hurt. Yep, he's on IR. Jimmy Smith is playing. I'm not sure what's wrong with him. I believe he's not listed as questionable, but he's still recovering from something because he's one of their better corners, and they're not listing him as a starter. Averett, who is questionable, is actually a higher ranked corner as far as what they have left to choose from. A lot of this is 60s, and if you are familiar at all with playing Madden, 60s is average at best, and that's being polite about it. Usually a 60 is somebody who's for lack of better words, cuttable, or on the trade block if they could get anything decent for them. Averett's really their best guy out there as far as the corners are concerned, and he's questionable. So even if he's playing, I don't see him playing at full speed at 100%. As far as their safeties are concerned, let's actually look at their safeties and I'll get into it in a second here. If you haven't seen me use Madden before, I'll kind of just break it down as to why I use it and how accurate it has been. But Deshaun Elliott, so they only had 3 free safeties. Deshaun Elliott was 81. He was their highest rated free safety by a long shot, and he is on the IR. And Chuck Clark is going to be taken over. He has been taken over. And I think they moved him from strong safety to free safety. So not really a whole lot confidence in playing that. Aside from that, if we go to their safeties, so they did move him from strong safety. So he's a 77. They're trying to kind of piece this thing together. As you can tell, they're just kind of throwing guys that they think are good into these positions. And it doesn't seem like a big deal to go from one side to the other. But I guarantee you it makes a difference to have somebody playing free safety to strong safety and vice versa. As far as other safeties are concerned, everybody else here is pretty much even. They're in their 70s, which means that they're about, that is truly like an average NFL player. So not too much else to worry about there. But these guys missing, as you can tell, they're missing not just important positions, but the best players at their positions. And the reason that I use Madden is that the guys who work for Madden and the ratings for Madden, first of all, RIP to Madden, sad to see him go for a lot of us, but as far as the game is concerned, the reason we use those ratings is that the guys who work on Madden have a very, very strong incentive to get this right. A lot of NFL players, as you probably aware, take their rating very seriously. Their ratings have actually been incorporated into a lot of their bonuses and pay structures and things like that. As far as the game itself is concerned, guys who are playing the game want these things to be as accurate as possible because there are big tournaments, there's big competitions, there's big everything with Madden, the millions and millions of dollars. When I tell you a video game and I'm looking at the ratings, it's not just because, this is easy to do. It's because everybody that's involved with that game has a very vested interest in being correct with their ratings, and they do not take it lightly. It is a very serious job as far as rating these players, as serious as NFL can get, right? But aside from just doing that, I've been using the Madden algorithm, and I didn't create it. It was in a book, and it's in other videos I've talked about. But that particular algorithm did get us about a 60. Well, I think we peaked out at about a 58.9 or 59% accuracy rate. Earlier in the season, I want to say through week 6 of the season, and that's about where I had predicted previous to the season even starting. And I was telling everybody those first couple weeks we rely very heavily on Madden, and it does very well this year and last year for me, which was really the first year I started using it. It's at about 56 to 59% both years. So if you have not done that, be sure to look at that next year. And again, it kind of starts to taper off after week 6 because there's updates and injuries and coaching changes and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, that's why I'm using it for this. Aside from that, I did want to show you one other thing here. Like I said, if Lamar Jackson does go, he is noticeably limping. And this is just in the ESPN video. Sorry, I just want to make sure everybody... There's not really any sound, but just to make sure you can hear the camera. And so it's not a long video. This is just the one that I found on ESPN, but there's a few others that are out there that show him when he's walking, even from one area to the other, the limp is relatively noticeable. And then especially when he tries to jog on it, he stops really quickly. And that's not from just this video, that's from others that we've seen. He's just maybe takes a couple steps and he's stopping the jog, or he just reverts to a fast walk with a noticeable limp. So again, all of this, I've seen guys who do this all week in practice and then play just fine. The problem is with Lamar Jackson, he doesn't have the best arm in the world. So if his ankle or his legs are just not there for him, or they're not at 100%, especially with guys like Aaron Donald coming after you, it's not going to look good. And especially when your secondary is not really up to par and they're probably not going to help you, I don't see how the Ravens pull this game out. Aside from that, I really don't understand why it's just a 3-point game or 3.5-point game. I thought just possibly maybe I missed some injuries, maybe I missed something that was standing out with the Rams, and that's why Vegas wasn't moving the line. But I'm looking at it, and this is up to date. This is the Rams depth chart as of today, which is the 29th of December. Stafford's good. He's banged up, but he's no issues. He's definitely playing. I understand Henderson is out. Sony Michel has looked good in the time he's had with the Rams and with the opportunities he's had. And last week even he looked fine. He was good with the Patriots. There's really no reason to believe that Sony Michel is a huge drop off from Henderson. Obviously, we would love to have Henderson in there, but Michel is, the next best thing, and it's not a huge drop off. And actually, Madden even has Michel ranked just, I believe, 1 point higher above Henderson. I don't expect Cam Akers to play in this game at all. The only issue I possibly see is obviously one, if Michel gets hurt, but two, if they're trying to give him some breathers. I don't really know who you go to. Jake Funk, Buddy Howell, I guess you put him in there for a play or two. Hopefully they don't hurt you too much. That's really about it. Cooper Kupp, Beckham, Jefferson, those guys are all healthy, and they're going to be going up against that depleted secondary. I think a lot of people are going to be on Kupp, and if you're still in your fantasy championship or if you're playing DFS, I would try to maybe get away from him because he's not the only guy that can do damage here. And if you look back to last week when the Bengals played the Ravens, it wasn't on Jamar Chase. T. Higgins had the biggest day out of all of them, and I think we could see something similar here where the Ravens are going to do everything they can to contain Cooper Kupp. They know he's the biggest threat, but that's going to leave room for guys like Jefferson and Beckham, and probably more so Jefferson to get open downfield. But either way, that's more of like a fantasy thing. Jefferson or whoever it is that gets passes should have a bigger day. Higbee's healthy. The biggest question mark on this team right now is Andrew Whitworth. He is their best left tackle, and like I said, that's really the strength of the Ravens, or the one plus they're going to take into this game is their defensive line. If Andrew Whitworth can't go, that is an issue. He's out with COVID, but he got COVID last Saturday, so actually on Christmas. And with these new regulations for COVID, it's possible that he plays this upcoming Sunday. Hopefully they'll take him off the report, but we'll have to keep watching to see if and when that happens. If he can go, that Rams offense should have a great day. I don't see any reason that they don't. As far as defense is concerned, they're missing a couple players, nothing really huge. Everybody that like Aaron Donald's there, J.J. Ramsey's there. As long as they can keep these guys off of their, COVID report, should be ready to rock. Von Miller, Darius Williams, they're all healthy. Robert Woods, obviously a big loss, but he's been gone for a while now. I don't see why these Rams are only 3.5-point favorites over the Ravens. It does not make any sense. The line is super fishy, and the only thing I can think of is that Vegas or whoever is setting these lines is trying to kind of like a reverse trap, like kind of galaxy brain somebody, where they're thinking, hey, I just saw the Ravens get their ass handed to them last week. Well, Lamar Jackson's coming back, so maybe let's take the Ravens because the line's fishy and I want the 3.5 and whatever. I don't know. I really cannot explain to you logically why that is. Vegas must know some trend of people taking this like bounce back spot or whatever against team. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. One other thing that I've heard, and I've really not taken to heart, but it comes up at times like this, is that you're supposed to lay the 3.5 and play the 2.5, which is mean just to say if a team is favored by 3.5 points, a lot of times it's seen as Vegas is trying to kind of talk you off of that. Like you're having to lay the 3 and the hook. So either pay us more or get off the game because of the hook. Whereas if a team is only laying 2.5, Vegas is kind of trying to entice you. Like, hey, look, you don't even have to lay a full field goal here. Go ahead and take this team. And it's more of like a, sort of seen as like a trap game. Again, could be, could not be, I don't know. I can just giving you the numbers, the facts, my algorithm, all that kind of stuff say that we should be on this Rams game. at the Rams -3. So I'm taking it. I'm making that my last pick of the week. Be Rams -3. I'm buying the hook down. That's it, guys. So again, I'm glad I was able to make the third video. If you have any questions or if you have any reasoning as to why you think the Ravens are going to win this game, please let me know. I'm being dead serious when I say I'm very curious to hear that input, because I just cannot think of one. Just save my life. So thanks again. Hopefully this was helpful. You guys have a great weekend, win some damn money, and have a happy new year.